Hi, Alan Stratton from Wood Turns. At the Utah Woodturning Symposium, one presentation that I liked a lot was Guilio Marcolongo. He made the point that the wood that we turn doesn't have to be round. I took that to heart, came home, found a piece of walnut, kind of roughed out somewhat of a triangular almost shape, connected it with arcs, and it made this little bowl with some weird shapes on the perimeter, some different shapes here on the bottom, but still hollowed out to be a bowl. Somewhat odd, somewhat misshapen. One would hardly expect that it was from a lathe. One might think it was carved, but it's on the lathe. So let's make this odd-shaped wooden bowl.
The extent of my planning was to draw a rough triangle on the surface of the wood and then to mark the center of each side. Then I've mounted the wood between a large faceplate and the live center. For now, I'm marking the arc of the swing. Then I'll go to the bandsaw to trim the wood close to my line. This wood is already significantly off-center. I need to reduce it as much as possible. Now back to the lathe. For a bit more security, I'm applying some hot melt glue. The tailstock provides clamping pressure, but cannot hold against rotational force. The hot melt serves this purpose. I've turned up the lathe speed. I cannot avoid vibration, but I'll keep it on the low end. Using my large bowl gouge, I'm trimming the circumference, then cutting a simple profile. I have to use very light pressure, since at least 2/3 of the time I'm cutting air. I'm focusing on very light pressure to avoid gouge bounce. My guide is the ghost image at the top edge, but I also need to stop frequently to check my progress. Finally, I'm using my heavy bowl scraper to take out the tear out before sanding this section of the profile. To sand, I'm using my 2-inch power sander with the lathe off. Next, I'm shifting the axis. I've cut away my pre-planned axis point, so I'm picking a point that has enough wood under it that the walnut will not tip. This point is approximately towards the point I had planned. Then mark the new arc before a trip to the bandsaw. Now back at the lathe, I'm mounting it to the new axis point and anchoring it down with hot melt glue. Again, using my bowl gouge, I'm working the new section of the circumference. I can turn the speed up just a little since the wood is still very off balance. Little by little is still the name of the game. I constantly check the ghost image and stop frequently to visually inspect. Again, the large bowl scraper is very useful to remove tear out. Again, I'm power sanding the new edge with the lathe off. Now I'm fanning an access point to refine the final arc on the perimeter before a trip to the bandsaw. Then again, press the wood to the faceplate with the tailstock and anchor it with a few dabs of hot melt glue. Now for the final edge arc. This one has wound up to be shorter than the first 2 arcs, but who said they have to be regular? We'll just have to see how this bowl turns out. Again, I'm using my large bowl gouge to shape the arc. The wood is still off balance, but I can turn up the speed a little bit. And the last bit of cleanup with a heavy bowl scraper before again power sanding the perimeter with the lathe off. Now I'm pressing the wood between the faceplate and the tailstock. After a little bit of cleaning of the bottom, I'm measuring for and cutting a tenon. Then shave a little more to form an interface to the sides. Now I'm reversing the bowl to mount it to a scroll chuck on the freshly cut tenon. Now to hollow the interior. The exterior is not concentric with the axis. I'll have to be careful in hollowing to not blow through the side. I quickly identify the side most at risk, then carefully trim out to the outermost lip and hollow down the interior. Easy does it. I'm happy with the look of the hollow. There's still a lot of bottom thickness, but I'll let it go for now. Finally, a little touch-up with a heavy bowl scraper before sanding. I power sanded the lip with the lathe off and hand sanded the bowl with the lathe running. This part is regular, so I can use the lathe's rotation. I'm finishing as much of the bowl as possible with brushing lacquer and wiping off the excess. I measured the thickness at the bottom. I have plenty of wood to remove the entire tenon. I'm pressing the bowl against a faceplate with the tailstock. I'll be gentle. I'm also cutting a couple of decorative coves in the bottom. This will also reduce the bowl's weight to be more in line with its size. After sanding, sanding, and more sanding, I'm applying more lacquer to the bottom and to the entire bowl, then giving it a good buffing. There I have my not round walnut bowl. It is definitely not a traditional bowl. It definitely has character and will make people wonder if it was carved. But no, it was shaped and turned on a lathe. I could make it more regular with good planning, but what's the fun in that? As an off-center project, it is a bit scary, not a beginner project. It was fun to challenge myself. Now that it is finished, I think there is a better way that will not be such a challenge. More on that later. The wheels are turning. That's a wrap. We'll see you again next week for another wood turning video. Please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and tell your friends. Always wear your full face shield. Goggles are not enough protection. Until next week, this is Alan Stratton from As Wood Turns. Let's keep turning.